Some people don't like government shutdowns. I don't know. Some people are against government shutdown. Some people actually like the government to remain open. Apparently, President Donald Trump is one of them. But only because it affects the GDP. Only because it affects the GDP, and he believes that if it affects negatively the GDP, it'll negatively affect the GOP, and the GOP is in a tight race for the House of Representatives, or the HOR, the whore. Did anyone ever realize that if you abbreviate or use the what acronym for House of Representatives, it spells out whore? I just realized that myself. The whore, which makes a lot of sense. See, when you see how many people go to Washington, screw around, and just make a lot of money. Anyway, what's up? This is Mark K. Saves the Republic. We'll get to all that here in just a minute because there's so much to get to, all that and more. But first of all, please subscribe to whatever format of this show you're listening to. We got video, we got audio, we got YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, we got the podcasts, we got it all. And I've slapped myself up so many places that it's almost impossible to avoid. In fact, there's people that complain. They're like, every time I go online, I see you. And I go, yeah. That was my plan. That was my whole dastardly plan. I'm glad it's working. I'm glad it's working to your liking. Hopefully you like it. If not, subscribe. And that way you'll never have to worry about not seeing me ever again. Because I know that that's a concern for some people. Hang on, let me move this microphone down because I can see it in the background. And it's annoying me. It annoys me is what it does. I don't like things to annoy me because I get a little flustered. Anyway, so the government is shut down, and a lot of people, it's one of those quickie government shutdowns, it seems. For example, the government shut down over the weekend. Nobody really noticed because it was freezing cold in Washington, D.C. and everywhere else. There was a blanket of snow that covered the entire nation, ice. People didn't have power, so they didn't care about having a government. They're like, I don't even have power. I can't watch TV. So what do I care if the government shut down or not? There's no water coming out of my faucet because the pipes froze. So, government shut down, government shmut down. Nobody even cares. But the shutdown happened because the Senate approved the spending bills, but the House of Representatives was not in session. And so the House of Representatives had to come back to Washington, D.C., which they've now done. Took a few days. Plus, there was that whole ice storm we talked about, 9,000 flights or something canceled. And so they're back now. And yesterday they went back to work, I guess, quote unquote, at the whore. they went back to work at the whore, and the whore was supposed to open up the government, but she didn't. And so what happened was, Donald Trump was very adamant that this is not only Donald Trump, but Senator Kennedy from Louisiana. He cut to the quick, man. He wanted everyone to know that if we don't open up this government, but fast, I'll let him tell it.
I mean, right now we find ourselves in the posture, as you know, Will, of having 5 appropriation bills and a continuing resolution to keep the Department of Homeland Security open. The Senate's already passed it. If the House doesn't pass it, a big portion of the federal government will be shut down. And that, in my judgment, would be top of the list, king of the hill, number 1 stupid.
Yeah, top of the list, king of the hill, number 1 stupid. Top of the list, number 1, king of the hill, stupid. This is one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite Sinatra songs. But that's John Kennedy saying, look, it's stupid. We can't do it. Donald Trump 100% agrees. Donald Trump does not want any blemishes on the country. He doesn't want any blemishes on his record or the record of the Republican Party going into the midterms. And of course, he doesn't want his great, big, beautiful economy to be harmed. Pardon me.
And have you gotten assurances from House Republicans?
Well, I spoke with Speaker Johnson. I spoke with Leader Thune. And I think they're pretty close to a resolution. We were at 5.6% GDP, and we lost 1.5 points because of the 42-day shutdown. Think of that. We would have been at 7. Nobody ever saw a number like 7. And I think, Howard, probably 1.5 points was the number, right?
1.5 points for the shutdown. Exactly right.
And it's very bad for our country. But despite that, we have the highest numbers we've ever had. We're doing well. We're going right through it. But I will say that I spoke with Senator Schumer numerous times, and I don't think they want to see a shutdown either.
Yeah. I don't think they want to see a shutdown, but they may also want to see, we don't really even know. Chuck Schumer does not want to see a shutdown, but Hakeem Jeffries just doesn't care. And that's actually a point of contention. In fact, before we get to Donald Trump's Truth Social post, here's what Speaker Johnson said when he was asked about it. He pointed out there is a massive crack in the Democrat Party, not Hunter Biden. That's a massive crackhead. A massive crack in the Democrat Party between the Senate and the House of Representatives, between the leadership in the Senate and the leadership in the House of Representatives, between Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries.
And you can see the record for itself. They shut the government down for 43 days, the longest in history, just last fall, and they want to do it again. And it's just crazy. And I think the American people are going to think about this hard when they go to the voting box and to the ballot box in the fall, and we decide who keeps the majority in Congress. I think they're going to give it to the grown-ups. I think the Republicans will be able to continue and grow our majority to keep governing. Otherwise, what Democrats will give you is chaos, shutdowns. They'll shut down the federal government. They keep proving it to you over and over. So take them at their word. Jake.
Explain this. So Jeffries told you he wasn't going to help with this. Did Schumer represent something different to you in your conversations with the president? Because it seems that there's a disconnect here. It's hard to square.
Yeah, so basically what the question was, Hakeem Jeffries said no, and Chuck Schumer said yes. And so tell us what the truth is.
It is hard to square, and it's not my place to get involved in their family squabble. But I mean, I think Hakeem has made very clear I think he was offended that Chuck Schumer presumed to speak for House Democrats. So you'll have to figure that out. The Democrats are in a family squabble over there, and it's not of our doing. Hold on, wait a minute. Schumer and Jeffries are from the same state. They're in the same delegation, and they seem to be having a little power struggle between the two of them. So look, I'm not trying to fuel that. You asked me the question. I don't know what's going on, but I can tell you the Republicans are united, and I'm proud of that. And this is the party that is getting the job done.
Okay, so the Republicans, for a change, seem to be united. Now, this thing hasn't passed yet, so we're going to have to wait and see. And a lot of that unity comes from President Donald Trump threatening them on Truth Social when he wrote, "I'm working hard with Speaker Johnson to get that." I mean, we giggle, brother. I'm working hard with. I'm working hard with Speaker Johnson. That's just anyway. Sorry. Where was I? Oh, yeah. To get the current funding deal, which passed in the Senate last week, through the House and to my desk where I will sign it into law immediately. We need to get the government open, and I hope all Republicans and Democrats will join me in supporting this bill and send it to my desk without delay. There can be no changes at this time. We will work together in good faith to address the issues that have been raised, but we cannot have another long, pointless, and destructive shutdown that will hurt our country so badly. One that will not benefit Republicans or Democrats. I hope everyone will vote yes. And it seemed like most people were going to vote yes, but then some people were going to vote no because they wanted the Save America Act attached to the bill. They said, in fact, Anna Paulina Luna, Tim Burchett, they were two of the top proponents of the Save America Act being attached to any bill. They said anything that comes out of the House of Representatives, we're going to attach an amendment for the Save America Act, which is saving America's elections and making sure that they're free and fair and safe and secure and pushing voter ID because it only makes sense. Voter ID makes sense, right? Everybody wants voter ID. What if you need ID to get on an airplane, or if you need ID to buy alcohol, or if you need ID to get into, get your tickets from will call or go to a bank to cash a check? Why don't you need ID to vote? In fact, CNN did a poll on this after Nicki Minaj came forward as a proponent of the Save America Act. Here's what they found out.
And the American people are with Nicki Minaj, because what are we talking about here? So take a look here. Favor voter ID to vote. Look, I got all this polling on the screen going back since 2018. You'll notice on all of it, it's all north of 75%, 76%, 76%, 76%, 81%, and then 83% in the last year of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj. They favor photo ID to be able to vote.
Look at that. Americans are with Nicki Minaj. Who knew that would ever be? Who knew that would be a CNN headline one day? Who knew that they would do a whole segment? Who knew that Harry Hinton would be like, let me poll. Nicki Minaj says voter ID is good. Let me poll Americans and see if they stand with Nicki Minaj or not. Apparently they do. The tune of 83%. Was it 83? It was a lot. It was in the 80s. It's been higher than it ever has been.
And the American people are agree with Nicki Minaj. They favor photo ID to be able to vote.
Yeah, 83% favor photo. 83% are with Nikki. 17% are without Nikki. That to me is, I mean, that to me is a slam. That's a no-brainer. That's an issue that really everybody can support, except for Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrats. And so Anna Paulina Luna and Tim Burchett apparently met with, I guess they met with Mike Johnson. They probably met with John Thune, and they came to some kind of conclusion. They came to some kind of agreement that the SAVE Act will not be attached to the budget as it heads back, or as it heads to the House for a final vote. But this is a big but. This is a Nicki Minaj size but. But there will be some kind of vote on the SAVE Act on the floor of the Senate. John Thune promises. And it will not include what they're calling the zombie filibuster, which is basically the filibuster as we know it today. The filibuster where you just need 60 votes to pass. They're going to go back to the standing filibuster, which is what that schmo from New Jersey did. With Cory Booker, remember when he did the filibuster and nobody really knew why? He was filibustering for like 24 hours to talk about how bad Donald Trump was. And then at the end of it, everyone was like, good job, buddy. You broke the record. But nothing really changed in the country. Anyway, we're going to go back to that. We're going to go back to the Mr. Smith goes to Washington style filibuster, where if you want change in Washington, if you want to hold up a vote, then you've got to stand and you've got to talk and you've got to continue talking, and you can't eat or drink or urinate. I mean, I guess you could urinate, but I guess you can drink water. You can't eat, and you can't, I guess you could urinate, but you know, hopefully you're wearing Depends, which half of the Senate is so old that I think they're already wearing Depends just cut. Like I know Mitch McConnell does. If you don't think Mitch McConnell is sitting in urine for at least half of the session, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what you're, I would think that probably, I would say, and I don't know if there's stats on this or if we could get like a Rasmussen poll on this or something like that, but I imagine there's a good portion of Democrats in the House and the Senate, older ones, who are currently wearing adult diapers. Not for fun, but for necessity. Maybe for fun, but probably mostly for necessity. Where was I? Oh yeah. So Anna Paulina Luna and Tim Burchett, they met down with the Senate leadership, and here's what they found out.
And Representative Luna and myself are not willing to allow that.
So based on your discussion, it sounds like you're moving towards.
Yes, based on our discussion right now, we're moving towards it. Also, we got assurances on the standing filibuster, which is incredibly important. I don't know if you guys remember when I was talking about inherent contempt. A lot of people didn't know what that is. The standing filibuster is an old school parliamentary procedure, but it's a way to break through what we consider traditional norms to get voter ID passed. I think that it's brilliant that they came up with it, but exactly that's why we kind of have these discussions, and we're very happy about the outcome. So there should be a vote. There should be a standing filibuster announced soon, and I would actually reach out to Senator Thune's office to ask him about that, because they have different rules in the Senate.
Yeah, they have a different. Anyway, so they're going to go and they're going to bring back the standing filibuster. Kat Kamak, our good buddy Kat Kamak from Florida's 3rd congressional district, she was online. She was talking all about this while she was pumping. By the way. That's apparently a thing. Let me find this video, because she was in her office and she was like, okay, here's the deal. Here's what's happening. Wait, where'd my clip go? Did somebody delete my Kat Kamak pumping clip? This is a good one, because not because she's, but here it is. Here's the official explanation from Kat Kamak, representative from Florida's 3rd congressional district.
We're getting a pinky promise from the Senate that they are going to reform the filibuster from a zombie filibuster to a talking filibuster. First, that sound you're hearing, yes, I am pumping because I am a multitasking mama with a 5-month-old and I gotta feed the baby.
See, I told you I wasn't just being creepy. I was actually reporting on the actual, anyway, here we go.
But I wanted to jump on here and let you guys know what the heck is going on, because it is so important that you get the process so that you can hold Washington accountable. Let's talk about the filibuster. Right now, we have a zombie filibuster in the Senate, which means you don't even have to be present in the chamber in order to keep it going indefinitely, which is why that 60 vote threshold is rarely reached on these bills that the House sends over to the Senate. But a talking filibuster would require that you are in the chamber and you talk until you drop, at which point that would end the debate, and then you would have the vote. Here's the kicker. The Senate has had this capability all along, so it makes you wonder, why haven't you used it before? Why haven't they been doing this? Good question to ask. The other thing is, this entire appropriations package is riddled with billions of dollars of earmarks for woke, progressive programs that DOJ rooted out and that are fundamentally against what we've been talking about. It's got gender mutilation, gender ideology, DEI, NGO funding, all this stuff. And to add final insult to injury, nearly half of the programs that are being appropriated have not received an authorization from Congress, or their authorizations expired over a decade ago. So it's kind of crazy. And the final thing I'll say on the SAVE Act, this is critical. 19 states around the country, they issue driver's licenses to non-citizens. And of those 19, 15, they do automatic voter registration. So if you want secure elections, you have to prove your citizenship in order to vote. This is a no-brainer. It is not controversial. It's common sense, but people get caught up in the process and they don't understand the process. But when you do, you become unbullshittable. So to all my friends out there who want to drain the swamp, stay skeptical, and I'll see you guys soon.
I apologize for her strong language. I forgot that she's from rural Florida. That's why I apologize. I meant to. I probably should have. I don't even remember hearing that the first time around. But that's she's from rural Florida. She has chickens. I'm just gonna put it that way. She got chickens in her yard. So to her, that's just the English language. But anyway, the fact of the matter is that, okay, look, the SAVE Act, we're good. We need it. They're going to move forward on it. Fine. The zombie filibuster being replaced with the standing filibuster. Fine. But these appropriations bills still have a bunch of crap in there that we don't want, that people voted on, that they moved through committee. And we talked all about this, a couple weeks ago when John Rutherford voted again for the National Endowment of Democracy, or for democracy, and all this other Doge crap that they're trying to reinsert into the budget. And that's why they didn't like Elon. Everyone was like, oh, Elon Musk. Everybody loves Elon. Didn't nobody like Elon Musk? Think about it. You're a Republican. You're a Democrat. You're in Congress for decades, much like our buddy John Rutherford. You've figured out where to invest, how to invest. You've figured out who gets what funding and how you need to vote to make sure they get that funding and how much of that funding you're going to get back in your political coffers or directly into your bank account or to your cousin's lawn care business or whatever it is. You've laid out this entire plan. You know exactly what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, and how you're going to get rich doing it. And then all of a sudden, here comes Elon Musk saying, we're getting rid of all of these programs you set up to get rich off the American taxpayer. We're going to just cut them out because they're all bad. Of course, you're not going to like that guy. So they got rid of Elon. And now they're getting rid of all of the things that he doged, or I should say, bringing them all back. And that's one of the biggest problems we have. And that's why and look, is the vote going to pass? It probably will. Why? Because Donald Trump doesn't want the government shut down. He doesn't want the GDP to fall. He doesn't want the economy to be interrupted. And he doesn't want people to have to not go to work again for another 40 days because we know what the Democrats are capable of. They showed it to us last year when they shut down the government for a record-breaking 47 days. We don't want that again. And the Democrats know that. So they're going to pile as much crap as they can into this bill. And the SAVE Act, we hope, as Kat Kamek said, we got a pinky promise. But, this is the problem with Congress. Sure, you can publicly say he agreed to this. You can publicly say John Thune said he would do this, blah, blah. But things change. Votes get pushed. They get doxed. They get put on the back burner. They get buried. The filibuster rule, sure, he's saying right now we're going to move to the standing filibuster, but will they really? Or will that change too when it actually comes time to bring those chickens home to roost? Fox News believes that it's going to happen today.
If everything goes according to plan here on the Hill today, this partial government shutdown should be over by some point later today. Now, a large part of that reason is President Trump decided to get involved. He urged a handful of House Republicans to drop their demand to attach the GOP voter ID law known as the SAVE Act to this package of government spending bills. Speaker Johnson says now just isn't the time for that.
We all want the SAVE Act, but we also look at the reality of the numbers here, and we passed the SAVE Act twice in the House. We'll pass it again. We'll do that, but this is a funding package right now, and I don't think we need to be playing games with government funding.
So here's where things stand right now. If Republicans can pass a procedural vote today, they can bring this package of 5 government spending bills to the House floor where it would be expected to pass even with some Democratic votes. Now, that would then end the shutdown today once it got to President Trump's desk. But it wouldn't end the fight over DHS funding, which has to be figured out in the next 10 days. And Democrats are digging in their heels over ICE.
And I refuse to fund such a lawless, out-of-control agency.
I will not vote for business as usual while masked agents break into people's homes without a judicial warrant in violation of the Fourth Amendment.
And Republicans say they are ready to have that fight.
To be clear, I'm going to be fighting like hell to ensure that we've got the resources necessary for the men and women of Border Patrol, ICE, and the other people at Homeland Security to secure this nation against violent criminals that are endangering the people of the United States.
And Kaylee, even if the House is able to end that partial government shutdown later today, it's hard to see how this fight over DHS funding is going to get figured out in just the next 10 days. On one side, you've got Democrats who are demanding masks off and judicial warrants. Then you've got Republicans out there who are already saying that is a complete non-starter for them.
Yeah. So, look, the battle is going to continue to brew. It looks like the government will be kept open with the caveat that they've still got to figure out policy initiatives for ICE to keep that funding going farther into the year and not end in February because there's that stopgap. And then, of course, there's the SAVE Act. Are we going to be voting to make sure that our elections are secure in November, or are we going to leave it up to chance? And perhaps maybe some people slip through the cracks. Perhaps some states don't have the election security that we want them to because this act was not passed. There's other fights, by the way, too. Tim Burchett and Anna Paulina Luna, they're two of the busiest people, man, and they've teamed up on like pretty much everything. The other thing is congressional stock trading. That don't think that went anywhere. Congressional stock trading is still one of the biggest problems we have in this country. I was just at a fundraiser the other day. I told you we raised several $1,000s for our campaign, which, by the way, thanks to everybody from Nocatee at Del Webb Nocatee who came to the event. It was amazing. Thanks to everybody online too who's been donating to markforcongress.com. It's been amazing how we've been able to grow and grow and grow, and we will continue to grow. Again, thanks to your support. But we had this amazing fundraiser and we were talking about this, and I said, look, one of the biggest problems you have with congressional stock trading, and when you couple that with no term limits, is, think about what you're saying. You're telling people if there's no ban on congressional stock trading and there's no limit to how long you can stay in Congress and get that insider information that you can then turn into wealth. Think about what kind of person does that attract? Think about the kind of person that wants to go to Washington, D.C., stay there forever because they can get insider stock tips and make themselves and their families super rich. Think about that. That's what you're seeing. That's why congressional stock trading has not been banned, and that's why there's no term limits. Because if you're one of these deep state operatives, these corrupt rhino Republicans who's been out there milking the system, bilking the taxpayers, who's been getting rich off of the knowledge that you've been able to curate as part of your office, you're not going to want to go anywhere. It's the cushest job in the world. You go to a committee meeting, you find out where the money's going to go, you call your stockbroker, say, buy this, sell that, buy this, sell that. And you don't have to worry about it because it's A, not illegal, and B, you can just stay there forever. There's no term limits. That's what happens with a lot of these Republicans and Democrats. And that's why you have bad leadership. They're not concerned about you or the laws or the Constitution. They're concerned about keeping their bank account full, building up their Scrooge McDuck-like vaults of gold that they can swim in every single day and doing it when they should be working for you. That's the biggest problem. As soon as term limits are passed and congressional stock trading is banned, then you get a totally different crop of candidates. Now you have people going to Congress going, I'm not there because I want a job for the rest of my life. I'm not there because I want to make millions of dollars on insider information. No, I'm going there to serve for like 6 years and then I'll leave. That's what you get. You instantly get a better breed of person stepping up and saying, I would like to go and serve in Congress. It becomes like the military. It's like something you do for a little while you're able, and then you go back to civilian life. It's not a lifetime appointment like the Supreme Court. It's not a lottery ticket. It's an actual public service position. It's not like that now. That's why you get all these crooks. What we need good Americans who are willing to sacrifice a small portion of their lives to help other Americans, even though they're not going to get anything in return. Tim Burchett is all about it. And Tim Burchett he's out there again, frustrated as all get up, man. Dadgummit. I feel bad for Tim Burchett every single day. This guy, every single day, he makes these videos. He goes on TV. He's posting on social media. He's fighting the good fight. Every single day, he just seems so downtrodden and so disgusted by the system, and he just seems more and more frustrated by it all.
Because it's infinitely broken. We're greedy. We're crooked as a dog's leg, as we used to say in East Tennessee. When you have a congressman making 600-700% return day in, day out, they don't need to be here in Washington, D.C. They need to be up on Wall Street advising all those big advisors, maybe the Fed, how to invest the money. Because obviously, look, we're in on meetings that go on behind the scenes. In the latest legislation, I proposed a bill, just said no stock trading. Do like I do. Have my buddy Tommy Siler manage my $11,000 portfolio, which is a mutual fund. Put everything in a dadgum mutual fund. But what do they want to do? No. Here's the latest idea they have, and it's the one that's capturing all the press right now, is that they're going to, if you've got stock, say you have $100 million, which is not unusual up here. There's some that do. In the stock market, they get to keep it, but they can't buy any more after that. It's sort of the drawbridge approach. And then what's going to happen? The House will pass something, the Senate will pass something different, and they'll all be out drinking wine at Martha's Vineyard the next weekend laughing at us because it just isn't going to work. This town is crooked. Both parties are in on it, and it's a very small club. And guess what? America, you're not in on it.
There you go. I mean, that's what we need. We need truth tellers. We need truth tellers. We need people to go up there with their cameras, with their microphones, with their eyes, with their ears, walk around, learn what's going on, see what's happening, interact with the people, learn the secrets, learn what's going on in the back rooms, find the greed, find the graft and the corruption, and then get up on camera and say, here's what's happening. And the good news is Tim Burchett's doing it. Anna Paulina Luna's doing it. A couple of other people were doing it. Matt Gaetz was doing it before they ran him out of town. Ran him totally out of the industry. Now what you've got is you've got a bunch of people who are in on it and very few people who are not. And the more that the people who are not in on it talk about it, the less the people who are in on it are going to give them access. So they're not going to have anything left to talk about. It's a sad, sad state of affairs, but that's why we need reform. Anna Paulina Luna was talking about the same thing too. We've got to ban congressional stock
We're
trading.
getting a pinky promise from the Senate that they are going to...
Nope, that's Kat Kamek pumping her milk again. Wait, where's the thing? Hold on. I had Anna Paulina Luna here. Hang on. Wait, here she is. Anna Paulina Luna. Here it is right here.
Congresswoman, looking ahead to 2026, of course, we got the midterms coming up. That obviously you're elected in for 2 years. You're campaigning for half that time. That's not your fault. That's just how it works. But when we look at the intersection of policy and politics going into the midterms, most Americans sit at home and they go, Trump's doing a good job. And when you look at what he's getting done, a lot of it he's getting done through the executive branch. You've got the big, beautiful bill you guys have passed. You've got things like the Lincoln-Riley Act that I think you should tout more heavily. But are there some agenda items that you all, the Republicans in the House, can really push and say, hey, this is what we're doing for Americans, and this is why we should be reelected?
Most certainly. I think to your guys' point earlier, you did a great job covering the fact that we need we need voters to show up to the polls. I think that in part that has to do with the fact that we need to codify President Trump's executive orders. So I know Speaker Johnson has announced that upon returning, there's going to be 81 of those executive orders that we're going to be working on codifying and marking in stone, so they can never reverse those. In addition to that, one of the top issues in this country right now, something that I addressed with you all last time I was on with you, is banning insider trading. And I have since gotten a commitment from Speaker Johnson that within the first quarter of next year, we will actually be banning that. That's something that Hakeem Jeffries has been actively working against. So that actually came out in the press. Democrats called him out for actually trying to stop that bill. And so I think that there's a lot that we're going to be able to do. But again, codifying, invigorating the base, and making sure that President Trump is out on the campaign trail, which he's promised to do.
And that is exactly what we need to do. And that's one of the things that hopefully we can get done. But again, it's an uphill battle because you're not just battling Democrats, you're also battling Republicans. It's going to be a very busy. In fact, you know what? I'm going to check real quick and see. I don't think it's happened yet, but let me just go check and see. Is the government open? No, not yet. Not yet. So we're still waiting on those votes to happen. Mike Johnson's still optimistic though, as of 1 hour ago, according to The Hill. According to The Hill, they're right now in there debating, I believe, and that takes longer than anyone really wants it to. And I don't know how much good it actually really even does. Speaking of which, there's a couple of other things that I wanted to bring to your attention. First of all, Don Lemon went on the Jimmy Kimmel show. the Jimmy Kimmel Show, Late Night with Jimmy, whatever, that show that almost got canceled but then didn't. And he's still angry. He's furious because he contends that he's not a protester. He's still a journalist.
Walking up to the room and I pressed the
Wait, hold on. That's not it. That's the elevator clip. Here is Don Lemon talking about how he's not a protester. He's a journalist.
And on January 18th, is that correct? You were covering a protest at a church in St. Paul, Minnesota, an anti-ICE protest. Apparently there's a pastor at the church who's also a local ICE official, which is, I think, just as Jesus would want. And I believe we have some B-roll. Protesters interrupted the Sunday service, and you followed them in. You interviewed various people in the church, and afterward, you were arrested. Now, first I want to ask you, is there a difference between whether those protesters had the right to go into a church and whether a credentialed journalist like yourself had the right to go in and cover them going into the church?
Well, listen, obviously I'm in the middle of this. I can't say a lot. There's a lot that I cannot say, but what I will say is that I'm not a protester. I went there to be a journalist. I went there to chronicle and document and record what was happening. I was following that one group around, and so that's what I did. I reported on them. And so, but I do think that there is a difference between a protester and a journalist.
He's right about that. There is a difference between a protester and a journalist. A protester goes into a church or a private facility or building and harasses people who are exercising their First Amendment rights of religion, and they do it just to draw attention to themselves and their cause and exacerbate the issue. And they don't care what laws they break. They don't care if they're trespassing or violating the FACE Act or anything like that. They don't have any respect for anyone else. A journalist waits outside on the public street, reports from there, and as people are coming out, grabs them for interviews. It's not at all what Don Lemon did. Don Lemon went inside the church, as we all know. Don Lemon reported from inside the church, as we all know. Apparently, he blocked the door as well. He harassed the preacher and some of the other people who were there. And so now Don Lemon is a criminal. He's been arrested. He's got to go to court. And he was asked about that. And he shared the story of how he was arrested.
Just walking up to the room and I pressed the elevator button, and all of a sudden I feel myself being jostled and people trying to grab me and put me in handcuffs. And I said, "What are you doing here?" And they said, "We came to arrest you." And I said, "Well, who are you?" And then finally they identified themselves. And I said, "If you are who you are, then where's the warrant?" And they didn't have a warrant. So they had to wait for someone from outside, an FBI guy, to come in to show me a warrant on a cell phone. And by that time, I was like trying to, figure out what was going on and get my bearings, and they dropped all my stuff. My glasses had fallen on the floor. I'm like, I can't read that. So they had to pick my glasses up, and I read it, and still, what does that mean? And then it was a bunch of guys, and they took me outside. FBI guys were out there. I mean, it had to be maybe a dozen people, which is a waste, Jimmy, of resources, because I had told them weeks before, and maybe once or twice, that we would, I think my attorney tried to contact them once, maybe twice, that I could just go in and it would have to be the folks who were just working there that day, and they wouldn't have to have all these people following me around.
It's more than just a waste of resources. So they grab you and they take you where?
Well, you're right about more than just a waste of resources. They want that. They want to embarrass you. They want to intimidate you. They want to instill fear. And so that's why they did it that way.
It's so funny because that's exactly what Don Lemon said about the people in the church. He said, it's uncomfortable, it's intimidating, it causes you fear and trauma. And that's what protesting is all about. It's so funny. He said that about the people in the church. He said that about the kids who were crying. He goes, it's so uncomfortable. But that's what protesting is all about. Now, all of a sudden, he gets arrested and he's complaining. We could have done this a lot easier. We could have done this in a way that was comfortable to me. Now, all of a sudden, comfort is important to Don Lemon. It wasn't that comfortable. It wasn't that important before. Do I have that clip? I may actually have that clip. Hang on. Let me go see. I have a lot of Don Lemon clips. So it may be... I don't know if I do. But the fact of the matter is, Don Lemon was not at all concerned about how uncomfortable or how fearful or how traumatic it was for those people in the church when he burst in and they started screaming and yelling and pointing fingers at them. He didn't care about those kids and how their lives were altered. But now all of a sudden he's crying to Jimmy Kimmel about how uncomfortable he was getting arrested. It could have been much more comfortable. They didn't have to cause a scene. Look at who's now complaining about not causing scenes. They didn't have to cause a scene at the elevator. And also, since when does Don Lemon not like getting grabbed by men in hotels? I mean, since when did Don Lemon now all of a sudden he's like, oh, I don't like it when men grab me in hotels. Really? I thought that was like his whole thing. Marjorie Taylor Greene she's also going a little viral today. Marjorie Taylor Greene's making the rounds because she did an interview on something called Blue Georgia. And I have to imagine that Blue Georgia is some kind of Democrat show or Democrat podcast or something like that. Anything blue, like Blue Georgia, Blue States, Blue, I don't know, Velvet. I don't know. It all just apparently is Democrat. But she was talking about how MAGA is all a lie.
MAGA is, I think people are realizing it was all a lie. It was a big lie for the people. What MAGA is really serving in this administration, who they're serving is their big donors, the big donors that donated all the money and continue to donate to the president's PACs and donate to the 250th anniversary and are donating to the big ballroom. And if they're donating to all these things, those are the people that get the special favors, they get the government contracts, they get the pardons, or somebody they love or one of their friends gets a pardon. And it's the foreign countries that are running the show here. It's the major big corporations and what is best for the world. That's really what MAGA is. That's the results. That's what we're seeing after one full year of MAGA.
Oh, sorry. It's the Kim Iverson show, but I guess she called it Blue Georgia, or it's some episode about, Blue Georgia. Anyway, that's Marjorie Taylor Greene saying, look, MAGA is not, it's a big scam. It's always been a big scam. It was always just for the donors. And I hate to, I don't want to, have to embarrass her or to correct her, but it's not the big ballroom. It's the great, big, beautiful ballroom is what it's not she called it the big ballroom. It's the great, big, beautiful ballroom. At least that's what President Donald Trump has been referring to it as. But she's now full on out there on Democrat podcasts and Democrat TV shows and spouting Democrat talking points. And she is joining the Democrat resistance. She's now anti-Donald Trump. She's anti the Republican Party. She's anti, apparently, 83% of people who are for the SAVE Act and 74% of people who are with the president on, because it's not, look, this is the difference that people need to realize. All these Congress people, all these senators, they need to realize that their approval rating is in the toilet. But Donald Trump's is not. Donald Trump's approval rating is great. Donald Trump's agenda is great. People love the things that President Donald Trump does. Not everybody loves everything, but overall, they're satisfied. When it comes to Congress, though, that's the real problem. When it comes to the Senate, that's where they have issues. Congress and the Senate they're always historically lowly rated, but they are some of the lowest rated ever in history right now. And a lot of that has to do with people like, Marjorie Taylor Greene. It has to do a lot with the people who forced the infighting instead of sticking together. And that is something that has always been a problem for the Republican Party. It'd be really interesting to me if Mike Johnson could finally get the Republicans to vote the way the Democrats do. And if the Democrats crumbled and fell apart, that would really be telling. That would really be telling for Nancy Pelosi, because Nancy Pelosi, again, she was so strict and so stern, and she was so adamant about her party voting in lockstep for anything and everything that she wanted them to, that she made it happen. There was no crossing Nancy Pelosi. If she said vote yes, you voted yes. If you said I can't vote yes, you were out of a job the next time around. And it was well known. She ruled with an iron fist. Hakeem Jeffries doesn't do that. Chuck Schumer can't do that. Mike Johnson sure as heck doesn't do that. Maybe this time it'll be different. And then there's Jerry Nadler. Speaking of Democrats, Jerry Nadler, who I always forget is still alive. I know that he fell asleep, and once he went to the hospital, and I think he's not running again. I think he's on. Not that he's ever run, but he said something yesterday in a committee meeting that made it sound like he was telling everybody it was okay to shoot ICE agents.
The tax cuts on millionaires and billionaires enacted over the last 10 years. But what is really the major problem in this country today is the fascism in our streets. The attacks on American citizens by masked hoodlums. If you were attacked by a masked person, you might think you were being kidnapped. You'd be justified in shooting the person to protect yourself. But we see people being shot for what? For driving a car? We see people, we see the ICE goons break into people's homes without a warrant. We see them drag out a man, an American citizen, in his underwear without even permitting him in the snow, without even permitting him to get dressed. This is the major problem we have today, along with the attack on our elections. We saw last week.
Yeah, anyway, so he's in there saying, look, here it is again. He said,
if you were attacked by a masked person, you might think you were being kidnapped. You'd be justified in shooting the person.
If you were attacked by a masked person, you might think you were being kidnapped and you'd be justified in shooting the person. He's talking about ICE agents being thugs and goons, as he called them. Thugs and goons, which, what is this, 1943? These goons, eh? These goons are grabbing people off the street, you see? Jerry Nadler's out there saying these goons, these thugs, these masked men are grabbing people off the street. If that were you, you'd think you were being kidnapped and you'd be justified in shooting them. So that, to me, seems like an open invitation for people to shoot ICE agents. And that is why it's so dangerous to be an ICE agent. And that is why ICE agents take extra precautions. And that is why people, unfortunately, like Alex Preddy end up dead. Because ICE agents know that they're being encouraged by people like Jerry Nadler, who say, these masked goons are trying to kidnap you. You're justified in shooting them. Is that what our lawmakers really should be doing? I mean, the lawmakers and law enforcement officers are all on the same side, or should be on the same side. Law. If you are in Congress, you are a lawmaker. If you are in law enforcement, you're a law enforcer. The lawmakers and the law enforcers should all be on the same side, but they're not. Because some of the lawmakers aren't interested in making laws. They're interested in breaking laws. They're interested in protecting people who break laws. If you're a lawmaker, you should really be excited about law enforcement. You should be like, hey, thank you for protecting this thing I made. Thank you, because we went in there and it was hard. It wasn't easy. We had to yell and scream and bicker, and I had to do some reading, and I had to vote 29 times on like 18 different amendments. I had to listen to Jasmine Crockett yell and Ilhan Omar scream and Rashida Tlaib cry about something or about some woman. All this crap. It was a god awful task, but I did it. Thank you so much for enforcing this law that I created. But now it's the opposite. They create laws, and then the law enforcement agents go out to enforce them. They go, "What are you doing? We side with the lawbreakers. Should shoot them." You'd be justified in doing it. Oh, except in D.C. Jeanine Pirro, Judge Jeanine, she got into some hot water because she got all, she gets all fired up, right? She was on Fox News' The Five, and she got all fired up, and she was talking about people bringing guns into Washington, D.C. And I don't know the actual gun laws in Washington, D.C. I think they're fairly strict, right? I think they're fairly strict. I know that Lauren Boebert carries a gun because I saw it in one of her campaign ads. She went out and got special dispensations so that she could carry her gun into Congress because, she's Lauren Boebert. And I know there's a couple of other people who are packing heat inside the Capitol building. I know that that'll be like one of my top priorities. Will be like, hey, listen, I know that we're all targets. Washington, D.C. has some of the nation's strictest gun laws, requiring firearm registration, a license for concealed handgun carry, no open carry, and prohibiting assault weapons and high-capacity magazines, with recent federal guidance indicating less aggressive prosecution for openly carrying rifles and shotguns if unrelated to other crimes. Residents must register firearms with the MPD, pass safety courses, and adhere to strict rules on firearm types and magazine capacity. The maximum is 10 rounds. So Jeanine Pirro, being the Attorney General in the U.S. District of Washington, D.C., she had some things to say about it. She got a little carried away, and she had to come back and explain herself.
You bring a gun into the district, you mark my words, you're going to jail. I don't care if you have a license in another district, and I don't care if you're a law-abiding gun owner somewhere else. You bring a gun into this district, count on going to jail, and hope you get the gun back. And that makes all the difference.
Yeah. And so that would, didn't really fall so easy on law-abiding registered gun owners in and around the DC area. The fact that Judge Jeanine's out there going, if you bring a gun into the district, you are going to jail. And good luck if you're lucky if you get your gun back, which is a double assault on the Second Amendment, because now you're assaulting somebody who could be a law-abiding, legal, registered gun owner, and then you're confiscating their gun, which is literally the government taking away your guns, which is something that we've all been fighting against for a long time. So Judge Jeanine, and again, I'm not really sure what she was talking about. I'm not really sure what the context is. It may have been a heat of the moment thing, but she had to issue an explanation.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here in the office, and some people are concerned about something I said yesterday, so I want to be crystal clear. I am a proud supporter of the Second Amendment. I have guns myself, long guns, handguns, and I'm a proud high-heeled gun owner. In fact, I even keynoted an NRA convention. However, you need to be responsible, and every responsible gun owner that I know makes sure that they understand the laws, where they are going, and understand whatever registration requirements there might be. President Trump's goal here, and my goal as well, is to make sure we take guns out of the hands of criminals. There is a reason that we have the lowest homicide rate in recorded history. We're taking guns off the street, illegal guns, in the hands of criminals who want to use those guns to victimize law-abiding citizens. There's a big difference here. You're responsible, you follow the laws, you're not going to have a problem with me.
If you're responsible, if you follow the laws, you're not going to have a problem with Judge Jeanine. But if you're an irresponsible gun owner, you're out of there. If you're an irresponsible gun owner, SEAL wouldn't want to be you. We don't want those irresponsible gun owners. We only want the responsible ones. And that is something that Judge Jeanine is going to policy. I'm not really sure, again, where this is all stemming from, but I do know that as a responsible gun owner, yes, you are supposed to be well aware of the reciprocity laws and all the laws of where you cannot carry a gun. For example, I am a licensed gun owner in the state of Florida, although now you don't even need a license. And I know that I can take my gun to various other states, Alabama, for example, Georgia, if I wanted to. I'm pretty sure most of the southern states, maybe not Virginia. I have to check. There's one that's like, you're like, really not there? But the rest of them, I think I'm totally cool. But those are things that they teach you or that you're supposed to know. And yes, there's a responsibility with being a gun owner. But if you work for President Donald Trump's administration and you're an attorney in the DC district office, I would say probably don't go out and attack the Second Amendment. You're going to get emails. That's all I'm saying is people are going to send emails, and they sure as heck fire. Did. There was something else that happened with Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj, by the way, she's become, who knew that Nicki Minaj would become the poster child for conservatism in 2026? Who knew that Nicki Minaj would be standing alongside President Donald Trump at a Trump account event saying that you're my biggest fan and going into the Oval Office? Who knew she'd be the butt of jokes at the Grammys instead of getting some kind of Lifetime Achievement Award? Who knew all of this stuff? But now she was on Stephanie Miller's podcast, Stephen Miller's wife, and she asked her about President Donald Trump and said, what was the moment? What really drew you in? Listen to this.
What issue specifically, drew you in the most? Is it immigration? Is it the economic policy? Is it religious freedoms? What specifically, answers that calling that you talk about?
Definitely, religious freedom is something that's very important to me. But if I'm being honest, President Trump. Yes. Because when I saw how he was being treated over and over and over, I just couldn't handle it. Because I felt that same, a lot of that bullying and the smear campaigns and all of the lying, I felt that had been done to me for so many years. And I was watching it in real time happen to someone else. And I didn't think he deserved it. And it made me think, I can't do this anymore.
So Nicki Minaj was like, I see myself in Donald Trump. Donald Trump's been bullied and he's been lied about. He's been talked about. He's been attacked in the press just like me my entire life. And so Nicki Minaj said, I'm gonna stand up. I'm gonna say something about it. I think that's half true. I think the other half is taxes. Because I remember Nicki Minaj years ago, and I don't have the clip, and I'm not going to look for it because there was a lot of cussing. But I remember Nicki Minaj, probably maybe 5 or 6 years ago, we played a clip where she really started to become conservative. And I know she started to become conservative because she made a lot of money. And she made a lot of money, and the IRS came knocking at her door, and they demanded a lot of it. And her first tax bill after she struck it big was in the millions. And she went off. She went on her Instagram live, whatever, and lit it up. A litany of curse words that I have not heard since my father got drunk one Christmas Eve and yelled at my sister for some, I don't even remember the reason, but it was fun to watch. But that's, it was amazing. It was really literally, it was one of the craziest tirades ever, because here's Nicki Minaj. She pulls herself up from her bootstraps. She gets her big illustrious recording career. She goes out there. She makes it. She gets millions of dollars from the label. And then the government takes millions of dollars from her. And she lost her mind. And that, I believe that was the beginning of her transferring to the Conservative Party. I think that happens with a lot of folks. I think that happens with a lot of folks from the rap community, from professional sports, people who are, grow up in black neighborhoods that maybe are not the richest. They go to poor schools. They never had money. They never had role models for what to do with their money. They finally break through. Russell Simmons has had something similar. 50 Cent said something. Somebody asked, I think it was 50 Cent. They said, hey, 50, when did you become a Republican? He said, when I started making money. Because when you're young and when you're impressionable and when you're broke, those Democrats, they look great. When you're young and when you're impressionable, when you're broke, when you don't have anything and somebody comes and hands you free money, hands you a free education, hands you all this free stuff, you're like, thanks, I'll take it. And then you go out there and you start making your own money. You're like, look what I did. I made all this money. And then they're like, well, now we want a bunch of it back. You go, the hell. And so that's when people's mindsets start to shift. And that's why the Democrats, they want to keep people broke. That's why the Democrats don't like people making money other than themselves. That's why the Democrats don't like people moving out of the slums, moving out of the ghetto. That's why the Democrats don't like the upward mobility. They hate the middle class. They want to keep the middle class in the lower middle class as long as possible, because if you keep people dependent on the government, then they're not going to turn into conservatives. If you start making money and you realize you have to give a bunch of it back to the government in the form of taxes, then you get mad. You get mad at the people who put those laws in place. And guess what? Those are the Democrats. It's really, it's all part of their dastardly plan. But if you're poor and you're a liberal and you become rich, odds are you will become more conservative, simply because you want to keep what you were able to build. And they'll tell you, Barack Obama will tell you, you didn't build that. You didn't build that business. You didn't build that road. That your name's on it, but we built it. He'll tell you, Joe the plumber, he'll say, we got to spread the wealth around. I just want to spread the wealth around a little bit. You made all this money, great. I'm going to spread it over here to these people that didn't do anything. Didn't take advantage of the systems that were available to them. Didn't take advantage of everything that this country has to offer. They just didn't take advantage of it. But now we're going to give them some anyway because you did. Thank you. And Nicki Minaj, she lost it, man. One day I'll play that clip again. She busted a gasket. She couldn't handle it. Speaking of people who get rich, like filthy rich, like really rich, or the Clintons are now agreeing to testify in front of the House committee. Isn't this amazing? The Clintons capitulate on House Epstein inquiry, agree to testify. Former President Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, the ex-Secretary of State, agreed to depositions they had long resisted days before the House was to hold a vote to keep them in contempt. Isn't that amazing? They agreed Monday to testify in the House Oversight Committee's investigation into the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, capitulating to the demands of its Republican chairman days before the House was expected to vote to hold them in criminal contempt of Congress. For months, the Clintons had been adamant that they would not comply with subpoenas from Representative James R. Comer of Kentucky, the panel's Republican chairman, but they've described it as invalid and legally unenforceable. They accuse Mr. Comer of being part of a plot to target them as President Trump's political adversaries and promised to fight him on the issue for as long as it took. But after some Democrats on the panel joined Republicans in a vote to recommend charging them with criminal contempt, an extraordinary first step in referring them to the Justice Department for prosecution, the Clintons ultimately waved the white flag and agreed to fully comply with Mr. Comer's demands. In an email sent to Mr. Comer on Monday evening, attorneys for the Clintons said their clients would appear for depositions on mutually agreeable dates and asked that the House not move forward with a contempt vote, which had been slated for Wednesday. So they were going to vote tomorrow to hold him in contempt, and the Clintons said, I guess they're serious, we're going to come on in. This was the line that really got me, though. This was their lawyer. They wrote to Mr. Comer and said, they negotiated in good faith. You did not. They told under oath what they know, but you did not care. But the former president and former secretary of state will be there. Takes a lot of chutzpah to tell somebody who's about to hold you in contempt of Congress that they didn't negotiate in good faith. But clearly, the Clintons have given in to the demands of the House of Representatives. And then there's this story, which I've just been totally upset. I'm like fascinated by this. It's so weird to me. And more shocking, of course. They found blood at Savannah Guthrie's mom's house. Nancy, I think is her name, Nancy Guthrie. And not only that, but now her pacemaker apparently has stopped syncing with her Apple Watch. And that could just be because the Apple Watch's battery died. It could be because they're out of Wi-Fi signal. It could be for other horrible reasons. But this whole story now, it just gets weirder and weirder. This woman, Savannah Guthrie's mom, was 84 or is 84. I don't want to say was 84 years old. She's 84 years old. She can't really walk on her own without the assistance of a cane. You can see there, she's got a cane on the set of the Today Show. She takes blood pressure medicine or some kind of medication that keeps her alive, and she's got to take it every single day or else she could have serious health problems. She's got a pacemaker, as we learned, that's been set to calibrate with her watch, sync up with her watch. And for some reason on Saturday, after her kids saw her Saturday evening, they saw her at like 9 o'clock in the evening. They left. They went back to their house. She went to bed, I guess, or she went somewhere. Then the next day, 11 o'clock, her church buddies were like, she didn't come to church. So they were calling around saying, why wasn't Nancy at church? That's when her family went back to the house. They found out that she was gone. They found that there was some other stuff going on in that house that made it look like a crime scene. They called the cops. The cops came out. The sheriff came out. And now she's been missing for like 48 hours. They had helicopters and drones. I imagine they're searching the neighborhood looking for some kind of doorbell, ring cam footage, whatever it is they can find, because they need to know what happened to Savannah Guthrie's mom. And Savannah Guthrie releasing statements saying, please just give me my mom back. And people are saying, I don't know, is it a ransom? Well, I don't know that there's been a ransom demand yet. We don't know that. If you're going to steal somebody's mom because you think they're rich and they're willing to pay you, you would immediately reach out. But there hasn't been any immediate reach out as far as we know. We haven't heard anything about it. If there didn't seem like they're not saying it seemed like a burglary gone wrong or a home invasion gone wrong. It seems like she was targeted and taken out of her bedroom, kidnapped for some particular reason. But what reason could it be? She's 84 years old. It's just so wild to me. Savannah Guthrie was supposed to be at the Olympics next week in Milan, Italy for the Winter Olympics, and she's not going, of course. So now NBC is scrambling to try to figure out who's going to be hosting the Olympics or who's going to take her place at the Olympic Games. It's really, like I said, just the craziest Dateline-ish story that you've ever heard, and still no sign of this woman. Nobody knows where she is or who took her or why. You know, and that's just really, that's probably the worst part for me is the why, because you just, when something's inexplicable, you just want it, explained. And that's one of the toughest things. But that's one of, like I said, I did a TikTok about her. I'm back on. So I will say this about TikTok. I'm kind of, wait a minute, community guidelines violation. Come on. I hate TikTok sometimes. I'm gonna have to argue this. So anyway, the whole thing with TikTok is that they handed over TikTok to the Americans. And then the Americans immediately did something that caused TikTok to go down for like a week and a half. And everyone was freaking out. And then they thought that TikTok was They thought that TikTok was, censoring them because they were writing about, like Billie Eilish said, I'm deleting TikTok because they're censoring me about my ICE posts. But the problem was actually that they weren't censoring you for your ICE posts. They just couldn't get their act together. And now I thought they were going to be better, but they're still taking down my posts for some stupid community guideline violation, which I don't even understand. So I still have this love-hate relationship with TikTok. But I did a TikTok about Savannah Guthrie's mom, so you can go there and you can take a look at it for yourself and see what you think. And it is one of the many places where we have our content every single day. If you want, you can follow us here on Facebook or YouTube or Rumble, wherever you happen to be streaming. If you were listening to the podcast, definitely 100% subscribe to the podcast because we're going to be bringing it to you every single day. And one of the other things that I wanted to mention to you too is, of course, if you haven't yet visited markswealthstrategy.com and gotten your free gold IRA guide from Augusta Precious Metals, I would 100% do that. Because here's the deal. Augusta Precious Metals, they're the real deal. We've worked with some companies in the past, and let me just say, they maybe were not they were maybe not vetted. But Augusta is amazing. We've talked to some of their customers. We've read some of their reviews. We know that they're fully rated by the Better Business Bureau, and we know that they have, I believe, the single best precious metals and gold IRA. And the best part about it is you can do all your due diligence for free. You just go there and get your free gold guide, your name, your email address, your phone number. And what they're going to do is they're going to give you this checklist. It tells you all about gold, which, by the way, is breaking records, over $5,000. For an ounce of gold now. That's amazing. If you haven't invested in gold yet, now's the time, and these are the people to do it with. Go to markswealthstrategy.com. markswealthstrategy.com. That's the website. You just fill out the information. We will send you your free gold guide immediately. You can look it over and you can go, wow, that's great. I love that. I'm 100% convinced that this is the best way to protect my family's finances in the future. Or you can go, you know what? Maybe not for me. I'll stick with Bitcoin, which is so volatile, it makes you want to vomit, or the stock market, which can be totally manipulated by foreign interests. Or you could go with gold, which would be my recommendation to you. markswealthstrategy.com is the website, markswealthstrategy.com, or you can text the word wealth, WEALTH, to 35052. And get that free gold guide today, because it's going to be if nothing else, you're going to learn something. There's a link in the show notes. You can just click it and get there immediately. We also have an after party coming up here in just a minute. I'm going to be going through my TikTok and trying to restore this video, which they took down. I'm not really sure why. And we'll do a little Q&A. So if you've got any questions, we've got your answers. If you've got anything you want to say or get off your chest, if you need help with anything, no problem. I'm your guy. And all you have to do is go to our Facebook page, hit subscribe, and you can be part of our Patriot Club, where we host an after party, or will be hosting an after party here in just a few minutes. Go to our Facebook page, Mark K on Facebook, hit subscribe, and join the after party, which happens here in just a few minutes. Needless to say, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for listening and joining us and interacting and learning and being here to know who's telling you the truth and who's lying and who's on your side and who's against you and what you need to know, who you need to trust, and how you and everyone you know can continue to fight so we can